Hello, and welcome back to In Between Sessions, the podcast where we talk about what you can do between therapy appointments to take care of your mental health. I'm your host, Lili, and I'm a licensed therapist in Kansas City. Today, I'm sitting down with Bianca Simmons, a licensed clinical marriage and family therapist, adjunct professor, and the founder of Renewed and Transformed Therapy in Overland Park. Bianca works with individuals, couples, and families, and she brings both professional expertise and deeply personal experience to everything she does. As a therapist, she's LGBTQIA+ affirming, and she welcomes clients of color and clients of size. She also volunteers as a mental health provider at the JDoc Free Clinic at KU Med, supporting transgender and gender diverse individuals. And she leads the Can We Talk Sisterhood series through KU Med's Center for African American Health, a monthly community gathering for Black women. We recorded this episode during Black History Month, and the timing felt right, because so much of what Bianca and I talked about is really about liberation. We get into movement as a form of self-care rather than punishment, what embodiment actually means and why it's important for healing, why your meditation practice doesn't have to look like anyone else's, and how to start untangling your relationship with your body from the diet culture messages that shaped it. This one is good, folks, so let's get into it. Hi, Bianca.
Hi, love.
What have you been doing in between sessions?
Oh, girl, I've been doing a lot. I've been journaling almost every day, which is a regular practice of mine, but I feel like I've been really ramping it up the past couple of weeks. I have been focusing on meditating for like at least 10 minutes a day, if I can, immediately after like a workout or some type of movement. So, yeah.
That's so smart. Okay, I have a million follow-up questions already. I am always so interested in people's journaling practices. So like,
Yes.
do you like use something to give you a prompt, or do you just kind of free form journal? Like how does that work for you?
Okay, so I'm a journaling warrior. Like I'm honestly always trying to gently encourage people to do it, but I kind of realized within the last couple of months, like my way isn't perfect at all, and some people do need prompts. I usually don't use any prompts. I kind of do stream of consciousness, like what I dreamt last night.
Ooh.
Or if it's in the evening, like how did my day go? What went well? Lately, I'm sure there is a prompt for it, but I've been doing like 3 things that I'm grateful for. And it could be literally anything. I could be grateful for the lunch I had that day. You know, something really small, to be more connected to that because of political climate we're in and everything that's going on. I'm like, I need to hold on to some type of hope and think about the privileges I have, because I will go insane if I can't grasp onto something.
Right. Absolutely. I was just talking to a client about this a couple years ago. I heard a mentor of mine, I think, talking about like the benefits of gratitude journaling, but she was talking about that there's also some research to suggest that adding like not only the things you're grateful for, but then adding like your contributions, like 3 contributions,
Okay.
can be like also super supportive. And I think especially like you mentioned, the political climate and feeling some like maybe powerlessness, lack of control. And I think kind of just like gratitude, like recognizing the way that we are contributing to like the world that we want to see or to making other people's lives better. It like gives us that acknowledgement of like, we are doing something.
Yes.
And I think it also becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like as you're thinking about contributions, then you're like, what if instead of like just ordering my coffee, I like said something kind to the barista or the person taking my order? Like,
yes,
that can be a contribution, you know, and it makes you think like, well, I'm going to track this later. So I hope I can think of 3 things. And then you kind of are like looking for opportunities to contribute.
I'm obsessed with that. Oh my God. I can't wait to start doing that. I love that. Yeah, I think it is really moving away from the hopelessness that a lot of people are feeling. That's kind of what I've been really preaching lately, of like, what action can you take? It can be something so small that can help nourish you as far as bringing joy into like someone else's day, or how to support your community. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the joy component, I think when people are feeling overwhelmed and stressed, there is this almost like guilt about experiencing joy or experiencing like something fun or happy. And I've talked with a lot of my clients about like, well, How could that be an act of resistance to like experience joy and happiness in a time that feels so fraught?
Yes, absolutely.
And then similarly, you mentioned mindfulness. I'm always curious about people's mindfulness practices. Like, do you use like a guided meditation at all? Is it all you? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think at this point, I've been on this journey for a couple of years now. So again, it's like freestyle, remix, whatever. So I'm a huge fan of how to describe it, like frequency videos on YouTube of
Yeah.
like 526 hertz, like whatever. I don't even know, a lot of the frequencies are associated with a specific feeling or a specific chakra. So I'll put that on YouTube or I'll bring it up on Spotify. And I really focus on like just breathing, doing breathing exercises. And then if it leads to reflection, that's great. If not, that's okay too. I think the misconception with beginners who are starting to get into meditating is like, well, I have to push all thoughts out. And not only is that not possible, but like, it's okay for a thought to occur in a
Yeah, right.
relaxing moment. It's going to happen. So how I describe it to clients is like something really basic. Like it's like you're seeing a cloud float overhead, right? Like you're watching it pass. And that is the thought that you're having. Like you're watching it pass. And also you're being gentle with yourself. You're being kind to yourself as you observe the thought. And it's going to keep coming up. You know what I mean? So it's really just that practice of coming back to the body, coming back to the body. So that's what my practice is like, of like some days I'm going to be more distracted and it's going to be harder for me to slow down. But I'm still doing the thing. Like I'm still in touch with my body and what's happening. If I'm experiencing pain, if I'm experiencing a really deep, juicy breath, all of it is good information.
Yes. And yeah, that sounds like a really compassionate approach. And, I think mindfulness and meditation is one of those things where there's so much language around like what counts, that like
Yes.
it doesn't count if you're listening to a guided meditation, or it doesn't count if you fall asleep while it's happening, or it doesn't count if you can't, get your mind to be still, or if you keep getting distracted. And it's like, that's what the practice is.
Yeah, it's like, let's not bring that into this practice. Like, this is derogatory. It's psychotic. I'm sorry. Like, we already have so many parameters for what we feel like we should and shouldn't do. Guess what? All of this is made up. Like, your practice
Yes.
is your practice. I tell that with, folks who are neurodivergent. You know what I mean? It's like, we have these fidget toys. Like, it's, pretty much a fact of life that it's harder for them to stay still, which is completely fine. And I'm like, well, you can still do meditation and other mindfulness practices and move your body as we're quiet and we're sitting and reflecting and we're breathing. Still fidget. That's okay. Like there is no right or wrong way to do this, because if there is, that defeats the purpose of the entire thing.
Yes, exactly. That's what it's all about. And, again, it can also be a self-compassion practice by meeting yourself where you're at. And if you feel like you need to have a fidget in your hand while you're doing it, or do a walking meditation, like that's all self-compassion. So you're actually getting an additional bonus.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's all about, to me, my interpretation of these practices is liberation. So
Mm,
if there are a bunch of rules and expectations, that is not a liberated feeling at all. So I want to be free from that. So, that's where the compassion and the kindness for yourself comes in.
yeah, I love that. And you've mentioned a couple times now, the relationship with movement in your mindfulness practice, and that you practice like after moving or exercising in some way. Yeah, tell me a little bit about the intentionality behind that.
So I like to do like strength training. I like long walks. Cardio is like, me and cardio are really not friends anymore for real. Like I'm kind of just over it. So your heart rate is like through the roof, like, the longer that you're doing exercise. So I think meditation makes the most sense after movement, because you're cooling down. You're really getting in touch with like, okay, how does my body feel after moving for this long? Do I have any aches and pains? Like, what is my intention for the day? How do I want to take care of my body after this? So I think it's a really good way to connect instead of like abruptly stopping, drinking water. And it's like, okay, let me move on to the next thing. Well, no, like, let me slow down and check in with myself a little bit.
Yeah, that's such a great point of how like stark of a change that is to like you've just like put your body through something when you exercise.
Hmm.
And, obviously it's like it's all for the best. Like you're doing this to support your body, but like it is a huge change for like your heart rate and your blood flow and your breath and like everything has just like been through a lot. And then to be like, okay, now I'm done, drink some water, get in the shower, like, okay, I got like 30 minutes, so I have to be at work. And it's like such a moment to pause and notice.
Yes. Yeah. And bringing it back to gratitude, again, something that I like to practice with clients is like at the end of a meditation, thanking your body for showing up for this moment, thanking yourself for taking the time to slow down is huge because we live in this culture where it's like we have to keep going. Like you said, we're going from thing to thing to thing. How productive can I be? What should I be doing next? And it's like, well, you
Hmm.
shouldn't be doing anything if you don't want to do anything. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's all made up. So it's like, how can we move slower? But with the practice of gratitude for the body, again, like movement is so closely associated with weight loss,
Yes.
fitness, right? And what that means for us. So it's like we kind of recontextualize it a little bit when it's like, oh, I just spent this time investing in myself of getting stronger or getting more flexible or being more balanced. How can I thank my body for doing that, especially if I have limitations?
Right. And also, the entire practice of like what we think of as yoga, like the movement practice, like the whole intention was to prepare your body for meditation. That I don't know if this is how the yogic creators would have worded it, but like getting the wiggles out before you are going to sit still and meditate. Like there's like an acknowledgement there that what we're asking our mind and body to do in meditation is challenging. And so setting it up for success by, yeah, allowing movement and stretching and all of that before we ask it to sit still. And I think, again, yeah, that transition moment of, I've just done this thing for myself. Let me pause and absorb and reflect and appreciate before I move on with my day.
Yeah. And it feels amazing. Like that is the true definition of embodiment to me.
Yes. Talk more about embodiment.
Embodiment, okay, I also feel like this is like the trendy thing now, which is like annoying, but also positive. I'm just a hater, but embodiment to me is that bottom up processing, right? To where typically we're thinking top down processing, like we're leading with our thoughts and our minds and our cognitions instead of leaning into our body cues, right? Of like when we're hungry, when we're thirsty, when we need to go to sleep, when we need to move. So that to me is embodiment of like actually being able to hear the cues that your body is sending to your brain and leading into those needs pretty much immediately.
Yeah, acknowledging them, even if you can't, like let's say, you're in the middle of session and you receive the cue that you're hungry. Like, okay, maybe you can't grab a snack right at this exact moment, but you can acknowledge like, oh, my body's telling me that I'm hungry and, I should take care of that as at my, nearest opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Like not being afraid to interrupt whatever you're doing to take care of yourself in that way.
Yes.
And I lead by example. If I have to pee in the middle of the session, I'm going to go to the bathroom. If I need a sip of water, I encourage my clients to do the same. Like, you don't
Yes.
need permission from me. Like, do what you need to do to be comfortable. And I think those small examples are such a great way to start practicing that.
Yes. And I think so much of what you're sharing is really about is so relevant like in the therapy space and also outside of the therapy space. So what you were talking about of like bottom up versus top down approach, like for a lot of people they come into therapy sort of expecting a top down approach of like help me organize my thoughts or understand myself or understand why I am the way that I am. And all of that, like sure, like fair. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to say like it's not enough or like it's, tell me what you think.
I think that it is not enough. And I don't know. I mean, for some people, if they really strongly feel like that's what they need, and the bottom up stuff and the somatic stuff and the mindfulness stuff is too woo woo, which is a whole other thing,
Hmm.
okay, that's fine. But I feel like, again, if you don't have some type of embodiment practice, then, all the intellectual things, they have worth, but it gets to a point where it's not going to be enough. Truly. You know what I mean? Like you can't intellectualize everything. And I feel like the way that we practice therapy and the way that we approach mental health is very, Western medicine.
Mm-hmm.
We're steeped in that. So it's cool to see the tide turning a little bit where we're exploring these other modalities that have been around for thousands of years, by the way,
Yeah.
So it feels more balanced, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the top-down approach for some people can create like a feeling of safety in the therapy space of like going straight to embodiment for some folks may feel like too intense and like too threatening. And so there can be sort of like felt safety in intellectualizing, which can be like a cool place to start. And when you feel like you have that intellectual understanding of what you're experiencing, like then it feels a little safer to drop down because you feel like you know what's happening and you're more willing or ready to lean into experiencing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel that to be true, especially with folks who have experienced trauma of any kind. It's like it is a very slow slog of really getting in touch with your body's cues again, and understanding how these processes work. So I agree. Like, I don't think you could ever really jump in headfirst to all of the somatic stuff, but there is so much worth in that, and it can be really life-changing for people. Again, in the context of like, my body has inherent worth as it is, and not because it looks the specific way and not because I can do XYZ with my body, which is really hard for people to reckon with.
Yeah. And I think especially, frequent listeners to this podcast know that I work a lot with folks with disordered eating and body image concerns. And something that I find, at least, on my therapy couch, is a lot of people who come in and they're like, yeah, my relationship with food, my relationship with food. And of course, we work on healing that. And they do tend to like make progress and, start honoring those hunger and fullness cues and, feel less fear around certain foods. And like that relationship like really improves. And they're like, this is awesome. And then they kind of look over at exercise and they're like, oh no. Like exercise then feels so like, okay, so I'm trying to accept my body as it is and like not change my body. But so many people have only engaged with exercise to change their bodies. But we know that exercise is good for us and healthy. And so they want to engage with it. But how do I engage with it and not focus on changing my body? And like, then it just feels like this giant mountain of a monster to try to face.
Yes. Oh my God. Completely agree. I see the same thing. And how I like to break it down for people is like, my stance is always like, I advocate for agency, of your body. So like, if you do want to change your body weight or your shape or appearance in any way, like, I don't care about that. I'm rooting for you. Like, that's fine. But the struggles come in when we have a very specific relationship with fatness, right? Like, we have to investigate where these ideas come from before we can change this relationship we have with food, before we can change this relationship we have with exercise.
Yeah. And our bodies, like that, where does this come from? And that, I think one of the really painful pieces of this work is, there's a metaphor in here, but I'm not thinking of it. Like you think it's like an iceberg. Like you think you're working on like what you see at the top. And then like when you realize like how much is down there, it becomes so overwhelming because yeah, like a lot of the work will be around like exposing people to information on fatphobia and weight stigma and like, how pervasive that is in our society. And so, then maybe they get to the point where they're like, okay, yeah, like I listen to Maintenance Phase podcasts. I'm like, I'm getting the vibe, right? And then it's like, okay, yeah. And then like, how is that connected to racism? And then it's like,
girl, yes.
The iceberg.
The iceberg. It's truly insane. Shout out to Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. Like truly, truly changed me in such a fundamental way when I read it 4 years ago. Cause yeah, it's like with all things, I feel like, when we think of bodies, it's like not just our bodies, right? It's like this is connected to racism and spirituality and capitalism, all these things. And it's like, we haven't always cared about weight. You know what I mean? Like there's a very specific history of where we got off the rails with this. So again, it's more intellectual, but I think it is so helpful of, again, like, how does my body exist in the context of all of these things that came before me? Even like as a marriage and family therapist, like love systems. So when clients come to me with body image issues, I'm like, well, where do you think this started? Like, how did your mom feel about exercise and food? How did your grandparents feel about exercise and food? What is the history there? Like, what were you told about your body? Like, what comments or compliments or criticisms did you hear? And their mind is blown because they're like, okay, yes, all of this has contributed to my identity in some way and how I feel about my body.
Yeah. And, even I have some clients who are parents and they'll say, like, oh, I was so careful with how I spoke to my daughter about her body. Like, why is she, starting to show some restriction with food or, feelings about her body or whatever. And, we have to have like the kind of painful conversation of like, well, how did she hear you talk about your body? How did she hear you talk about other people's bodies? Like, it's not, kids don't just pick up from like what we tell them about themselves. They pick
Hmm.
up from what they hear us say about ourselves and others. And that can be a really painful conversation. And then to be like, so the things that you said about yourself and others, like, where did that come from? Like, whose voice was
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Oh my God. It literally just makes you want to peel your skin off. Like it's truly insane, but it is the discomfort of those conversations that leads to like creating a different system, creating a different pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. If someone was listening to this and thinking, like, that sounds hard, like, I don't know about all that. Like, why can't I just focus on me and like myself? Like, why do I have to learn about weight stigma and fat phobia and the role of racism within that? Like, what would you offer to that person?
I would say again, it comes back to liberation, right? Of like, you feel like you have this individual expectation or standard for yourself, but it didn't start with you. And that can be really freeing of like, people are saying these mean things about, people in bigger bodies, or this is how our government sees, fat folks or whatever. And it's like, we have to get into the history. We have to get into the context because it's like, okay, this is a battle that we are all facing. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter, what size your body is. We are all up against the same obstacles. Why? You know what I mean? So I think it takes away a little bit of that, individual responsibility just in the context of like, okay, you don't have to keep going through these same cycles with movement and with eating. You can really figure out something that works for you specifically. But I think it's just a really good way to release, again, these expectations and projections that other people have about their own bodies.
Yeah. And because also you're not healing in like outside of the space in which you were caused pain, if that makes sense. So like
Yes.
you are, as you try to recover from all of this, like you're still in a culture where you're hearing those messages all the time.
Yes.
So you have to be able to name it. And I would also argue that the discomfort and the pain that comes with realizing, how many of these beliefs that we all are holding are rooted in things that we don't agree with. Like
Hmm.
if you're like, no, 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 like I don't engage in weight stigma or I'm not racist or whatever. Okay. Like if this root is causing you tension, then that should motivate you that like that feeling, again, that bottom up, your body is telling you, I don't like where this came from and I don't want to continue to perpetuate it.
Exactly. It's about becoming curious about it. And again, that's not to say that it won't be painful once you figure out the answers to these questions, but being curious about it is what leads to the healing.
Yeah. It's so true. And so, how do you feel like you have gotten to a place with movement where it feels like it's actually able to be a supportive thing for your mental health rather than, what a lot of us feel around movement, which is like punishment, a way to change my body, a way to make up for that cookie I ate, etc.
Yes. Oh my God. So my journey with it was really based off, I was in this like really horrific car accident in 2020 and I had like over 20 injuries, I think. And long story short, I had to get like steel rods in my femurs and I had to learn how to walk again. So it was a really traumatic and intense experience where I was going through physical therapy and I was in the hospital. And it was that journey, which was like a year long, that I'm like, oh no, I have to exercise so that I can be able-bodied again. Basically, I have to exercise and build strength so that I can feel mentally strong, and just so many privileges that you take for granted as an able-bodied person. It is like through the lens of disability that my personal journey was like this recontextualized movement for me 100%. So through the years, it's really been like my body is going to continue to fluctuate in specific ways that I can't control. Movement now for me is like truly about staying strong and like being in touch with myself in that way because of what I lost in that year, you know what I mean? And what I had to build back. So that was really deeply personal for me of like, no, I can take a walk and it doesn't have anything to do with how many steps I'm taking or how many calories I'm burning. Like, that's cool. But like, no, I just need to get outside and like clear my mind and feel the fresh air and again be connected to gratitude. So,
Yes. Oh my gosh. And like, yeah, what a sort of like wake up call to like what movement is actually for and about.
yes.
And you said like it truly was about becoming strong. And that's just it's so tough how like wellness culture just like co-opts all of these like well-intentioned, like where like the original version of this was actually meaningful. And then wellness culture is like, yeah, it's about being strong, but like secretly it's about being skinny. Like, but we're just going to stay
Yes.
strong instead. Like,
Yes. It's all about capital. I mean, literally, something that is really be kind of fun for me is like having older clients who are like, you know, like in their 40s, 50s, 60s and talking to them about wellness trends. And I'm like, do you remember Fen? Like, do you remember when
mhm.
Taibo was saying? And it's like all of these things, like, you know, right now we have GLP-1s. Great. Love it. It's really, really helpful and a game changer for some people. But it's like in another 10 years, what will be next? You know what I'm saying? It's like we're always chasing this very specific ideal for what? You know, we have to investigate that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think that part of the journey with movement specifically, you know, we talked about like body autonomy. Like if you want to change your body, like that is like your right. And that it, you know, that can be a driving force for you. And I think for me personally, you know, so much of the work for me was about accepting, you know, that like I am no longer you know, I have chosen to no longer engage in intentional weight loss and to like accept my body as it is and accept that my body will likely continue to change as I age and that, you know, that may include, you know, like gaining weight and becoming larger than I am today and learning to accept that. And I think for me personally, what was sort of humbling was accepting like when I started healing my relationship with movement, noticing changes in my body and not letting that be a trigger. That, you know,
Yes.
like noticing like, oh yeah, like my arm feels a little bit like I feel like a muscle here that's like more defined than it was before because of like the weights that I've been lifting and you know, there was part of me, I think, a lack of self-trust that's like, that means I'm gonna like undo all this progress and like freak out
Yeah.
because I'm noticing a change, you know, and so having to sort of like reckon with like accepting change means like in either direction
Yeah.
that might
Absolutely.
also be, you know, at some point being smaller because of an illness or because of, you know, intentional like exercise that I'm engaging in or something. And it's like, I almost had gone, like, I was so focused on accepting the change of my body potentially becoming bigger that then
Mm.
feeling a change in a different direction felt really triggering.
Yeah, I mean, it has so much to do with locus of control, right? Like that is what it's all based in. But yeah, like as therapists, we love a reframe. So it's literally like reframing what it means to be bigger or smaller. And it is just like a moment in time, but something that I talk with clients about a lot too. Again, if they're interested in weight loss, that's fine. I think where people run into trouble is like, well, what's going to be good enough? Because, you know, if like you lose 50 or 60 pounds one year and you're feeling good for a while, that's amazing. But, you know, if you gain 20 or, you know, if you gain more, you know, it's like, how do we get off of this hamster wheel is what I'm most interested in, basically. So, yeah, what you're talking about with acceptance, it's like, you know, whether I'm bigger or smaller, I like to think about, okay, how much weight am I lifting now compared
Yeah.
to 4 years ago? How long am I able to walk without getting tired? How flexible am I with doing like a regular yoga practice? Like those changes are really exciting to me. And I think, regardless of ability or, physical limitations, like that's something that people can look forward to if they're looking at movement through that lens, as well as mindfulness.
Yes. And I love what you're saying because it adds a degree of like measurableness because
Hmm.
something I've talked about with a lot of clients is like if you've ever been through the diet hamster wheel, as you said, like I gotta admit, like it's a really satisfying feeling to be engaging
Yes.
in an intentional diet and then you step on the scale and the number went down.
Yes.
That is a great feeling. And like,
Yeah.
I can't take that away from anybody. It's true. And the reason that it feels good is you are seeing evidence of the changes that you have made are having an impact. Like, of course we like that. And I think normalizing that for ourselves to be like, it's okay that you like to see measurable progress. And
Hmm.
everything that you described is a way to replace it being about the number on the scale. Like,
Yes.
the distance that you're going and still feeling energized. And, yeah, how much weight you're lifting that like, oh, this weight that used to feel so heavy and I could only get through like 5 reps, like now it's actually feeling like kind of light and like maybe I can go up one. Like that's still measurable
Absolutely.
progress.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm going to try not to fly off the handle completely with this, but
Please
like,
fly.
it's really about like, weight is not indicative of health. I'm sorry. Hello. Like, it's
Please
just
fly. Please fly.
boggles the mind where I've had really passionate conversations with clients about this too, where like, they're in bigger bodies and they're trying to get fertility treatment and they get rejected because of their BMI. And it's like, yeah, all of our bodies are set up differently, but it's like if you're in a larger body and you're moving the right way, eating the right way, whatever the hell that means, your labs are perfect and you're still getting treated the specific way, like, okay, we need to stop and pause and think about what we're doing. Like, why are we still using BMI as an indicator of health? Are you kidding me? So, like, again, thinking about the history of that and why it was created, it's like, let's dig deeper. And again, like, let's figure out a different context because this is insane. And it just makes people's self-worth like completely go down the drain, whether they made progress or not in thinking about these things differently.
Yes, if anyone listening to this is wanting to know more about what we're talking about, like okay, yeah, we say that, weight isn't a reliable indicator of health, but like that's actually a really radical statement, right? Like that is
Hmm.
in contradiction to like everything we hear on the news, everything we hear from medical providers, and so like that sounds like record scratch. So I'm going to link a couple episodes of Maintenance Phase that kind of like talk about some of these issues, like the BMI, like about, is being fat or being labeled as obese, like, is that actually an indicator that you're in poor health? And just like spoiler alert, like there is no one health issue that like only happens to people in larger bodies. So that right there is evidence that being in a larger body, being fat, being labeled as obese, like does not cause these health conditions because they happen to people in smaller or thinner bodies as well. And
Hmm.
so, again, I'll link the episode so that you can hear kind of like the expansion pack on some of what we're saying. But it's so incredibly true. We place so much value on the number on the scale to indicate whether or not we're in good health. And also, other spoiler alert, like you also don't owe anybody your health. Like
Yes.
no one else, when people, again, I think well-intentioned say like, yeah, you can be like whatever size as long as you're healthy.
Like, what does that mean?
What
What
does
does
that
that
mean?
mean?
Say more. Like, and what are the limits to that? So
Yeah.
like, if I get an ear infection, then it's not like then like my weight better go down. If I get cancer, like is it because I'm
Yes.
fat? Like that there's so many questions around like what that actually means and like why, especially in a country where we don't have universal access to healthcare, does anyone
Hello.
think that we owe someone else our health?
Let's start there. Okay. Literally, let's start there. Like, I've been pulling so much inspiration from Eastern medicine, specifically like traditional Chinese medicine, because I mean, I don't have any specific statistics, but like those folks live so long. And if they're 70, 80, 90, you're going to see them out on the street walking. You're going to see them practicing Qigong and Tai Chi and meditation and eating these really nutritious foods and just nourishing their bodies in these very specific ways that is so helpful. And we're not doing that over here. And if we're doing it, it's because we want to lose weight. And it's just like, that can't be the only thing. I'm sorry. It's like, again, this has so much advantage to our mental health and our sleep, and the way that we interact with people and our moods. I mean, there's just so many other benefits to this. And also, I meant to say this like 20 minutes ago, but like something that is like such a trigger word for me that I really try to train out of people is using the word motivation when it comes to routines, especially if they have to do with exercise or diet or literally anything. It could be hobbies too. And I'm like, where does this motivation you speak of come from? Can you tell me? What is it? What does that mean? I said, I think what you're thinking about is discipline, but even that feels really restrictive, right? Really rigid. What if we replaced routine with ritual? Like, what do you associate with ritual compared to routine? Like, what are the differences there?
Yeah. And you, like, we're so on the same brainwave because I was just thinking, like, I can imagine someone listening to this and saying, that's all well and good. Like, I'm on board, but I just like, I don't have the motivation to exercise. Like, I'm never motivated. And so, yeah, I mean, I love this idea of ritual over routine and over discipline that, that makes me think of like, it just feels more like spiritual and connected and like holistic and loving. But yeah, if specifically in regards to exercise, if someone were to say like, yeah, I know it's good for me. I know I'd probably feel better, but I just like can never seem to get motivated. What would you encourage them to do or think about?
I would encourage them to redefine movement and what that's like. Literally, I'm like, if you take a lap around the parking lot at your job, that is movement. If you do a 10-minute mobility routine, which is literally just like stretching, that is movement. So I'm huge on that of like, what does accessibility look like? Because again, like there are people out there that have disabilities, that have physical limitations, that they can't do much. But there is something that they can do that can be tailored to their body and their needs. And also it's like, why are we saying we should be doing this or I need to do this? It's like using those specific words makes it feel like it should be a chore or something checked off your list. Language matters so much when we're talking about this. It can be something that you get to do, right? It's like, how do you create more desire to where it feels, again, ritualistic of like, this is something that I do every day, every other day, even like 2 or 3 times a week, where again, I'm taking care of my body in this very intentional way. And it can be as short as 3 minutes.
Yes.
That's fine. We all can't do 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour workouts in the gym. Okay. So that's fine.
Absolutely. I think like what you're talking about, one of my favorite questions is like, well, what do you imagine when we talk about exercise or movement? And they're like, running. And I'm like, oh,
running is insane.
You will never catch. If I am running, you better run too. Something is terribly wrong. Hate
literally.
running. It's horrible. It hurts my body. It feels bad. I don't like it, but I will walk to the end of the earth. I love walking. I love it.
And yeah, no shade to runners, by the way. Like running has so many great benefits, but yeah, that's an excellent point of like, how can you experiment with movement that you enjoy? Because I'm like, you can dance, you can swim. Like there's so many weird little things that we can do that are outside of what you can do in the gym or what you can do on a track outside. So yeah, I think that's so important to explore.
And like, yeah, you can dance by going to a dance class or a Zumba class or something, but you can also just turn on music and dance. Like, it does not need to be formal. It does not, this is right back to the beginning of our conversation. There's, with exercise and movement specifically, I think there's even more of that, like, that doesn't count. Like I'll speak from experience. two of my most favorite forms of movement are walking and yoga. And in like wellness culture, like those are rest day activities. Like that's not exercise. Like that doesn't count. And I definitely internalized that for a really long time. That like, and talk about not being motivated when you're like, oh, but the types of movement that I enjoy don't count. Well, then like I don't really want to do it because it feels useless. But when I allowed that to be enough and was like, but like, what if I just walked and did some yoga? Like, what if that was fine? What if it doesn't have to count? Like, it only has to count for me, you know?
It feels good to you. Absolutely. Oh my God. It drives me insane. Yeah. And I'm a yoga truther. I'm like, people just don't know. If you think it's just stretching, no, baby, you're holding poses for like what feels like 5 minutes and you're building crazy strength. And it's the same for a walk. The longer you go, if you're going up hills, down hills. But again, it's like, that's not the point. It's like, this is what feels good for me. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah, right. And like, I've tried getting myself a little like walking pad for the winter times when it's too cold to go out, and I hate it. I won't do it. I like 5 minutes on a walking pad, like, and I'm done. I can't do it anymore. But walking outside, even if it's cold, like I can do that for infinite amount of time. I love it. And so, you know, and like, it's just like knowing and noticing that and accepting that and being kind to yourself about what you enjoy. So like, if you don't enjoy running, like, oh my God, please don't run. And if, I know we're being really shady about running. If you love running, enjoy.
Right.
That's not me. So like,
it's not for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of these things, I think there maybe is a little bit of grief here too. Maybe you would have loved running if it didn't feel like a punishment for all those years. And like, that sucks, right? Like you got that taken away from you because yeah, it was always about burning off that cookie or whatever. And like, you can grieve that. You can mourn the marathon runner that you might have been if it weren't for diet culture and wellness culture. And you can gently and compassionately like sign up for that yoga class or that Zumba class or, you know, what is it? Like water aerobics, like live your best.
Ooh, yes. Yeah. Just try it. I think that can be the most exciting part of like, I mean, I literally went to a water aerobics class last summer and I was like the youngest person there and I didn't care because I was like, this feels so good on my little joints. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, just like getting some novelty out of it instead of, again, like making it feel like a punishment or a chore. Like, of course you wouldn't want to do it if it feels that way. Like all of this should be joyful. That is a part of the liberation that we're seeking in these practices.
Yeah. And to that end, like playing with your kids, playing with your dog, like taking your dog on a walk, like all of that is movement. Like that all counts. Like, again, this idea that it has to be like formal and structured, like that is such a limiting belief. And yeah, I just truly, when you think about moving your body, like what makes you light up? What makes you feel like a kid again? What sounds like fun? What sounds enjoyable? And yeah, you stretch yourself and you push yourself to try something new and maybe you don't like it. Okay, great. You never have to do it again if you don't want to. But yeah, I think again, yeah, liberation. Like how liberating is it to free yourself of this punishment and this harshness and what, you know, engaging in something that feels bad to your body. Like how freeing.
Yes, absolutely. One day we'll all get there. One day we will all get there, honey. I think we're slowly making our way towards that point. 'Cause yeah, I'm like, what's accessible, what's free is my whole thing too. What's free, what's accessible, what's the most convenient in a way to where we can still slow down and feel good about the choices we're making in that way.
Yes. Yeah, if someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, like I want to work on my relationship with movement, is there like something that you would give that person as like a starting point?
YouTube once again. We love you. Which again, like could be controversial because some folks don't like to work out at home. I'm gonna say, sorry, lean into that discomfort a little bit and make it work because that is the most accessible and convenient type of movement there is of doing it at home, doing it in your backyard, doing it at the gym at your apartment complex, whatever. Of it could be strength training, it could be again qigong, which is like very gentle movement of like it feels like you're stretching, it feels like you're doing a few dynamic things that it barely even feels like a workout, but it is movement. Starting with that or again a walk, just a walk. you know? Yeah, it's like literally remix it, do what feels good for you. It doesn't have to be structured, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, if someone is super not into the idea of working out at home, like I think there's so many things, like have a friend, call up a friend to go on a walk with you outside or meet up at a park or use YouTube videos as a way to try out a bunch of things, like try out yoga, try out Pilates, try out Zumba through YouTube videos. And then that way you know what you like and then you're paying for something you already are enjoying.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, just I love the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. How can we make this as simple as possible? If it means marching in place in your living room
Yeah.
or doing a few stretches as a starting point, let's do that.
Yeah, starting small for sure. Well, Bianca, I'm curious what you're going to do before your next session.
Well, I am preparing to do another series with KU Med, the Center for African American Health. They do what's called a Can We Talk Sisterhood series. So it is once a month, every third Thursday, where Black women come to meet and we be in community with each other. We'll have activities. We'll talk about specific topics that are very much needed in the Black community. So that's what I'm gearing up for.
Amazing. That sounds incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I so enjoyed talking to you, and I just feel so lucky to get to benefit from all of your insights.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's an honor. Also, happy Black History Month.
Yes, the timing.
Yes. No, thank you so much. I always love yapping with you.
How great is Bianca? I hope you're walking away from today's episode feeling as recharged as I am by Bianca's amazing energy. The thing that I keep coming back to when I think about this episode is movement as a joyful form of ritual. Not a routine, not motivation, ritual. For me, that brings up the idea of something intentional, grounded, loving, personal, and consistent. Whether that's 3 minutes of stretching in your living room, a walk around the parking lot, or dancing in your kitchen, if it's something you do for yourself with intention, it counts. Your in-between sessions homework this week is to pick one form of movement and try reframing it as a joyful ritual rather than an obligation. And then just notice if it changes how you feel about it. And if you've never examined where your relationship with exercise comes from, this might be the week to start getting curious about that. What thoughts or beliefs are you holding around your exercise routine? If Bianca's work resonates with you, you can find her at Renewed and Transformed Therapy. Links are in the show notes. And if you're a Black woman in the Kansas City area, you can look into the Can We Talk Sisterhood series through KU Med Center for African American Health. Again, that's linked in the show notes. You'll also find links to the resources we talked about in today's episode, so be sure to check those out. Thank you so much for being here. If this episode meant something to you, I encourage you to share it with someone who needs it. And please leave a review if you haven't yet. It truly helps more people find the podcast. Take good care of yourself, and I'll see you next time in between sessions.